Okay, finally I'm the host. All right, good morning and welcome to today's Dashu Virtual Journal Club. My name is Xing Yi. We have a very exciting talk today featuring Dr. Ren Zhang. Before I hand the mic over, I would like to spend a few minutes on the brief background of Dashu. So Dashu is a 501c3 nonprofit organization providing a virtual community for people interested in statistics and data science to exchange ideas and help each other. We are a young organization founded 5 years ago, but with a free membership, we already have thousands of members around the world. We're very fortunate to have many strategic partners, including SFASA and BASE. We host many types of events. We have had an international scientific conference, monthly virtual club, like this one, and collaborate with industry and academia to host career development events like the panel discussion last year, to share knowledge and experience on how to survive in the job market. We also have educational lectures, for example, a legal series to advertise awareness on legal issues. Aside from the official website, we also share our past events and upcoming event promotions on social media. So we have LinkedIn, Twitter, and a WeChat official page for our Chinese community. We also archive our previous events, including the Virtual Journal Club, on our YouTube channel under the same name, meaning that it's free to public and you can go back review at any time. And as I said, we are a nonprofit organization run entirely by volunteers. We are always actively seeking new volunteers to generate fresh and innovative ideas. So if you're interested, you can find us at dashu.org to sign up and become a volunteer. I would also like to advertise for our Virtual Journal Club, which is a monthly event featuring high impact researchers coming in and presenting their work. Looking into the second half of year 2020, we welcome speakers, topics, collaborators, sponsors, everything. And I appreciate your help by attending this event and spreading the word. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you today's speaker, Dr. Ren Zhang. Dr. Zhang is currently the Chief Data Scientist for BMO Financial, leading the Enterprise AI Center for Excellence team. Dr. Zhang holds a PhD in statistics from the Wharton School at UPenn, and she has over 15 years of experience as a senior AI leader within various financial organizations. Prior to BMO Financial, she also worked at Prudential Financial, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and American Express. For today, Dr. Ren Zhang will give us a talk and a few case studies on how the application of AI can support transformational initiatives in the financial service industry and discuss mitigation strategies to address those challenges that may arise. During the talk, please keep your devices muted so that other people can focus on listening. And if there are any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. I'll read them to Dr. Zhang at the end since she wouldn't have time to read at the same time. And now I'll hand the mic over to her. Dr. Ren, you can share your slides.
Okay. Thank you for the intro, and good morning, everybody. Let me first pull out my slide. Can you guys see it?
Okay, beautiful. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, let me get started. So thank you for the intro. I truly appreciate the opportunity that I get to present through Dashu with this data science community. Before I get started into the contents, I first probably want to share with you the company I am with, BMO Financial. So BMO Financial is a financial institution which currently probably have about 600 billion assets under management. It's number 8 institution with asset size in North America. And the product BMO Financial offer ranging from retail everyday banking to mortgage lending to assets management and to investment. So it's a diverse product. That's why the example I'm going to offer you, you can see it's going to cover many areas. So what I want to share with you is that with the size of BMO, over the years, we have already realized how important it is to tap into the power of data and AI. So I understand AI has been probably a buzzword nowadays. So when it comes to the financial industry, the key is how do we turn the data and technology into the value we can get into. Based on that idea, we create the EDAI organization, which is called Enterprise Data and AI. And what we want to do today, I'm going to share with you is through the organization, how we are able to use AI. Number one is to help drive revenue. And number two is to help improve the customer experience. And lastly, very importantly, how do we help with the risk management? So going to next page. What we're showing here on this page is a vision we have for BMO EDAI. As I mentioned, as a financial institution, the most important thing we're looking to is turning data and AI into tangible business outcome. Beyond that, what's unique with financial institutions is that we're heavily regulated. So we want to make sure as a time we generate value, we also want to make sure we balance the risk, growth, and innovation. And the third, very importantly, with an organization as big as BMO, I may not have mentioned BMO has 45,000 employees. How do we make sure the AI can grow in a scalable fashion? How do we ensure one area's learning can be applied to other area? So that kind of fast growth scale capability will be what we're looking for, and looking to how can we reuse the capability we have already generated. And next, we also want to care about transparency. As many of you probably already know, with this heavy regulation, and people are all wondering what AI is doing. How do we know the decision's right? How do we go through all those complicated algorithm and understand the decision? So we need to provide that as well. And the last one, we also want to make sure in this kind of environment, we need to make sure that how do we get the talents from all over the areas to enable this. Okay. Going to the next one. So from here, I want to start sharing with you some of the examples. So this is the first example I want to share. This is actually one use case we have for customer experience. As you may know, that actually quite a lot of customer, they have challenges with their financial need. As a matter of fact, actually we have about 40% of the customer, they're unable to cover more than $500 expense. And within BMO, if we look at our data, we find that 33% of the customer probably face at least one shortage over 12 months window. So, and 71% of the customer listed this shortage as their top concern. So what we try to do is that how do we use AI to help customer to identify the challenge and help them? So what we're showing here, you can see is the experience, right? At the very beginning, you can see that when customer come in, and with the AI technology we have, we actually will be able to tell them that we predict in the next 7 days, you are likely to have a $1,000 shortage. And following the flow on the mobile app, they're going to see that the likelihood how it's happened, and also show their history, the past months, right, where they are and how we come up with this conclusion. The following one, very importantly, we integrate with this product offering and underwriting decision process. So the customer can real-time apply to get a product there. And when they click, yes, I'd like to have this product, and they will get it right away. So this seamless customer experience, what we have here, has been enabled by deep learning. We use deep learning methodology, basically able to predict customer spending pattern in the next 14 days, 2 weeks time. And what we showed here actually won the AI Excellence Award in this year by Business Intelligence Group. And this application is also featured in the American Banker as an article to showcase what we're able to accomplish. The application will come live in Q4 on the app of the bank. So that's one of the examples we show. And this feature actually become quite critical if you're thinking about in the COVID-19 situation. We have quite a lot of customer under this kind of financial stress. So with this, we're able to offer timely help to the customer. So that's the first example. It's about the customer experience side. The next example I want to show you is about the pricing example. So as you can imagine, in the banking industry, price is a quite important factor, both from the customer experience side and also from our profit side. Historically, without tapping into the data and AI analytical side, the banker will make judgmental call, right? They will look at the customer's application information and all of the past experience from there to decide what will be the right price to offer to the customer. And it's quite a lot of judgmental call, and a result, lots of inconsistency. For the same customer, if you go to a different banker, you may end up with different price. So how do we make sure that we empower the front line in an intelligent and consistent way? What we are showing here is a pricing tool we provided, powered by the analytics and modeling behind it. The idea, if you look at the chart on the left side, the idea is offer the price agent an option in terms of, do they want to maximize the margin as a return on the profit side, or do they want to maximize the sales on the volume side? So it's a dialer to allow them to achieve the balance. And on the right side, we also allow when they interact with the customer, become a negotiation tool. So when the customer gave them feedback, and they can put in their constraints and to decide, the pricing tool will give them an offer right there. So if we look underneath the hood, how do we make this happen? The pricing, if you step back, if you're thinking about it, for every single customer comes in, what you try to, from banking perspective, what you try to optimize is the return of this deal. Now that's expected profit of this deal. And if you're thinking about it, there's two major factors when we think of that return. Number one is likelihood of booking. When you offer customer price, the higher the price, the less likely customer will take on the deal. And the lower the price, more likely. The second factor is the expected return if the customer take on the deal. There you can imagine the higher the price, the higher the return. So that's two balance points. And putting them together, you have your expected return. What we did is that we built a model for the likelihood of booking. There's objective function is a 0-1 binary factor. And from there, with the model and with the expected volume, and we put optimization over there. Typically, individual level optimization is not that hard. What we run into the challenge in this kind of problem is a global constraint. So lots of times the best solution for the bank is not necessarily give the most optimal price for individual customer. What you will need is actually overall portfolio, the best outcome. So sometimes a bank will have the global constraint, like I want to make sure my overall sales has to be higher than how much. I want to make sure my overall write-off, the credit loss estimate cannot be higher than how much. There's certain segmentation, for instance, healthcare industry, that's what I care about, I want to grow, or certain region I want to grow, I want to make sure we favor those places. So it's those kind of global constraints. Because of those, it makes sure that your individual optimization may not necessarily give you the optimal result at portfolio level. So that kind of a constraint we bring in, that is a critical part that we allow the tool to interface with the banker and give them what the desired outcome. So with this design, we actually launched it already for all of the mortgage, home equity line, And we are in the process of working for the business banking and eventually for commercial and capital markets as well. What you're seeing here is for the lending product. We also did this for deposit. Actual deposit problem is very different because lending you're talking about is likelihood of booking. You have a clear understanding whether to take on the deal or not. However, when it comes to deposit, whether customer like your price or not will be reflected on the balance. So it's no longer a binary objective function there. What you're predicting is likely to be the flow of fund, which is going to be more complicated. Okay, so this is another application on the pricing side. Moving on, the next one I'm showing you again is on the customer experience. In today's world, I would say our customer has already been trained by many of the digital company, technology company. They are looking for relevant experience. Netflix, Amazon, you know, the experience they see here, that what they need to see from the banking side. So what we are trying to do here is that how do we make sure that either online interface or when a banker is interact with a customer, how do we make sure that we offer them the relevant product recommendation? So it will offer a good customer experience, at the same time will deepen the engagement with the customer and resulting in good profit outcome for the bank. So this project, what we're doing, the key thing, I would say there are three major components of this. Number one is how do you marry your offline information with online digital footprint? The reason is you would have a good understanding of the customer based on their day-to-day behavior. Now online, when they browse your website with a click stream, that you would need the website to reflect your recommendation real time based on those. So bring those together will be very important to allow the model to learn. And the second part, very importantly, is that while we're presenting this, doing those kind of deep learning, there need to be a very good reward system for your machine learning to fine tune. The key thing is that how would you consider it's successful, right? Ultimate goal, lots of time you want to say it's a sale. However, sale takes a much longer cycle and it may not be readily available, have that feedback at the time of the online experience. So instead, lots of time, people may started considering the reward every single step. Instead of targeting the final outcome, we call it the next best action, right? You move the customer along the way. So for instance, starting with the browsing your contents, then going to the click on the contents, and then they may initiate a conversation with the banker or they start application and eventually conversion. So that become much more effective way for you to guide your model and make sure that your model is training based on the right outcome. That comes to the third component, which is very important. That's on the chart bottom is a feedback loop. Lots of time, our initial model actually will not be very good. The reason is that, especially in an industry, when you roll out this kind of learning engine at the very beginning, right? No one is, you don't have much data around there. That's brand new. Your history cannot predict the future because this is brand new experience you're providing. So that as a result, your initial model probably is going to be really bad, right? But that's a power of machine learning. When you have a model there based on the feedback loop and based on the right winning criteria we have described early, then your machine, the model will continuously improve and eventually get to where it's desired to be. And we are rolling this out actually in our branches for online and in our branches. So when customers come in, the banker will approach them with a relevant product offering. And actually that brought to one more important point with this whole personalization. Personalization not only means the experience has to be relevant. Very importantly, it also means it has to be consistent. So if you have different contact channel with your customer, you send them email, you send them mail, you come online, they talk to your banker. If the different channel, you actually give different recommendation, then that's not, then that will be very confusing to your customer. So a powerful personalization engine will make sure that it's going to be channel agnostic, right? So you have to have the engine, make sure no matter which channel you're going to contact your customer, have to tap into the same modeling outcome and feedback to the same engine enable that learning. That will become extremely important. And actually that lots of time become the hurdle of many financial institutions, because doing that require quite a lot of investment on the infrastructure and on the capability. And it can be costly, even though the reward is also very high. Okay, going to the next one. So here I have a video to share with you guys. So we have a financial crime unit. Actually, we set up. The whole idea is that how do we, okay, how do I switch back? How do I, let me do a new share. Okay. Just bear with me 1 second. Let me. I'm trying to, it was there. Okay. I need to apply. Let me pause this for a second.
The next generation financial crime monitoring.
All right. Can you guys see the video?
Not yet. So
okay,
if you
let me
can
try
stop
to share.
share this. Yeah,
you need to share that video.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share application? I can share file.
I think so. Yeah, you can share Chrome browser, everything. So if you just stop share current slide screen.
Okay, let me do that.
Yes.
And then let me share again.
Yeah.
Can you guys see it now?
Yes, yes. But it's
the next generation.
It's cropped. Oh wait, no, it's perfect. Never mind.
Data, real-time analytics, and artificial intelligence. Inspired by joint task forces set up by the FBI, the Financial Crime Unit, launched in January 2019, sets a new benchmark for the banking industry by bringing together information security, fraud management, physical security, and global crisis management, along with experts from each of BMO's businesses in one cohesive team. This highly collaborative approach enables BMO to detect, analyze, and respond to security events faster and more effectively than ever before. Part of the new initiative is the Toronto-based BMO Fusion Center, a state-of-the-art security management hub that opened in May 2019. Integrating functions that have long tended to operate in silos, the FCU takes a more holistic approach, with multidisciplinary teams leveraging big data to model, detect, and develop effective responses to anomalous activities. While the Fusion Center is located in Toronto, we have locations in New Jersey, Singapore, and London to provide frontline insights, leading to a global view of risks, as well as the ability to mobilize localized resources to mitigate issues. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is a core enabler of the Fusion Center. We proactively aggregate, monitor, and action risks as they arise globally and across our lines of business, spotting and actioning anomalies as soon as they arise. And we don't plan to stand still. The FCU is an ever-changing organization that will continuously adapt to the highly complex and evolving threat environment around us to protect our customers from financial crime.
Okay, all right. So let me stop sharing that, go back to my presentation. Where do I go? So while I'm going back to the presentation, you guys can see this?
Yep, we can see the slide.
Back to the slide, great. So this is a video we basically showing that how AI is getting into the credit risk area. Remember at the very beginning of my presentation, I mentioned there are several areas, revenue generating, and now I'm getting to the credit risk side, the risk loss side. So the next example what I'm going to share with you is part of those financial crime units, as the video has explained. What we have done is using facial recognition to detect synthetic ID fraud. So not sure whether all of you are familiar with synthetic ID fraud. What this has is come with the fact that we have lots of data breach. As you probably already heard from many of the news, right? There's multiple data breaches, and one of the big one, even from the credit bureau, and you have lots of the vendor that have data breach as well. So due to the fact of all those data breaches, so there's lots of situations you could have criminals that actually take the victims, the identity, and come to apply for financial product. Now, the question is that how are we able to use AI to identify actually that's the same criminal behind all those cases, all those victims? So this is what we did with facial recognition. What we did is that we take the image from the video clip. Lots of time can be the ATM machine withdrawal. And from there, and we feed the data into the facial recognition process. So the facial recognition here generates a two-step process. The number one is a face detection to be able to identify where are the faces. And in this step, we tried several methods, and eventually we decided to go with multicast CNN methodology. And that method actually is able to achieve more than 97% accuracy. We tested with 2 million images, public images, and we make sure we have the good diversity of the face, of the race, of the gender, and also make sure that there's all kinds of image, either front look, side look, with glasses, with hats, and this multitask cascade CNN method actually is able to do a very good job. Now, once they identify, detect the face, next step you go to is a face embedding and distancing. So there we also tried several methods. Eventually we end up using Google FaceNet. It was already trained with 22 layer of CNN method, and with good results. Beyond the method selection, we also tried different kind of a distance to enable the result. We tried L1, L2, and cosine distance, and cosine gave us the best result with around 85% accuracy when it comes to detecting the same person. So here, see, facial recognition is a sensitive area, when particularly in the financial industry, right? If you're talking about general servicing, it's different. Here, we want to make sure that we are not going to make any wrong decisions. Whenever you're talking about algorithm, no matter how advanced, how good they are, you will always have error. So the final result is that we are sharing this result today actually is with the global investigation team for them to review. So for any of the potential criminal, we are showing them another 5 potential suspects, and they will take action. That human layer help us to mitigate any potential issue from the methodology. What we're testing next is working with the fraud team and to see, could we potentially leverage this even real time, you know, in the ATM withdrawal side, be able to be more proactive, preventing fraud. But of course, there, the biggest debate is on the customer privacy side and make sure that customers are comfortable. But we're very excited with this result. As the early result is very encouraging. And actually, several also data facts I want to share with you. When it comes to from 2017 and 2018, the data breach that has been reported has gone up 126%. So we have 446 million record has been breached. And the synthetic ID actually accounts to 20% of fraud loss. So you can see the magnitude of the issue we're facing. That's why we care about it. In fact, there's quite a lot of black market out there, and the criminal could purchase the breached information and then use it, come back to apply for financial product. So that's where this is one example of how analytics can help, but it actually used in many areas for third-party fraud and account takeover, compromised card, and usage fraud as well. Okay. Going to next example, we talk about fraud loss. On the loss side, on the expense side, credit loss is a major area. Especially, I'm sure that in the pandemic situation, you may have heard many companies has been hit hard with the credit loss as customer is under quite a lot of financial stress. So what the dynamic risk decision engine, what it does is leveraging the fact that most of the time our banks have multiple relationship with the customer, right? So during that situation with a multiple relationship, we actually know quite a lot. So the example we have here actually is for small business. If you're thinking about small business owner, we not only have the small business relationship with them, but we also have the retail relationship. So that will include their everyday banking relationship, their mortgage, their credit card. So you actually know quite a lot about the customer and about the company. Before we use data and intelligence, lots of time actually we ask the customer quite a lot of information, sometimes hundreds of field, application field. But in reality, you don't have to. You already know that based on their information. What we did, actually, this is one initiative I did before with BMO, was with another financial institution. That's why I'm not showing much detail here. What we did is that we basically build model with all of the transaction information. It's two types of model. One is to predict how likely the customer is going to pay you. So that's likelihood of default model. And the second one we build is serviceability. So that typically is measure how much the customer can afford. So in the situation of the business, of the small business side, you almost can try to simulate as much as possible their financial statement with their cash flow you observe. So we use, in the first case, we use a GBM, which is a boosting tree methodology. The result was quite good. Now, credit risk, that's where regulation, we're under quite a lot of regulatory scrutiny. So going through the model validation typically take quite a lot of time, which I'm going to talk more later as well in terms of interpretability, right? When you make a credit risk decision on a customer, it is very important you can explain your decision to the customer, tell them why, right? Why you decline them specifically, especially when the action is adverse, right? You need to explain what is the driver. So when we have a GBM and we use hundreds of variables in those modeling, and the model not only will need to give the result overall, talking about variable importance overall, it also need to talk about for this specific individual customer, what is the driver? And realize here the driver may vary differently from one customer to another. So how do we come up with that is going to be important. There's actually quite a lot of literature out there nowadays to specifically tackle those areas. Okay, my next one I want to share with you is related to the current COVID-19. So with coronavirus outbreak, the business is very eager to understand what will be the impact, where it's going to be. So what we did with this whole process is that we actually internally, we leverage all of the virus infection cases and deaths, publicly available information, and we use SEIR method to predict what is the best, worst, and the normal situation for the pandemic. And once we have that prediction, and then we overlay it with our financial information. What I'm showing you here is on the credit card payment side. And you can see, you know, the green line is where the projection will be and the blue is actual. You can see when the pandemic hit somewhere in March, actually we already started seeing the impact. And we actually see it across the board, not only from the credit card, but from the loan obligation, deposit, all of those cases. So what we are trying to show here is that with a different scenario, pandemic, where we believe it's going to go back to normal and how long will take. And this become quite important for the business to have a sense, how do they adapt, what they're going to do with the situation. And some interesting observation we have while we look at the data, and some part obviously got hit really bad. For instance, if you're talking about lodging, or if you're talking about the traveling restaurant, all those hospitality area, they got hit really, really bad. But we do have bright spot, as you can imagine, digital goods, right? That's the area actually we see the spend increase significantly, right? That kind of granularity actually helps the business to adapt. We also see some of the area, for example, the loan borrowing increase, and the deposit, actually some places got increased because the deposit the money is borrowed as well. Okay, moving to the next area, we have another video to show you before we get in there. So far, what I have shared with you is about analytics. In the banking industry, another area very important is about automation. If you're thinking about going from a traditional banking to now, it is important for us to truly, how do we help eliminate or reduce those manual process, right? And that will help us to improve the efficiency and customer experience. So we have built actually quite a lot of bots. What we call bots, if you're thinking about it, is really logic to help streamline the process. Just last year, we built more than 200 bots. Actually, we automated more than 80 processes, and it's more than $30 million saving for the company. So what I'm going to share with you is one of the automation process, and you can get an idea what is happening as one example. Okay, hopefully this time I will be able to do it faster. Oops, let me pause first. Okay, I can play this, but I don't know why I cannot see this in share.
Oh, you might want to start new share.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Can you see now?
Yes, we can see.
Okay,
Banking for business is changing, and it's changing very rapidly. Our clients are looking for simplicity and speed.
With the advancement of technology, what customer really wants is to get everything at a click of a button.
At BMO, our clients always come first, and the Robotics initiative is a great example of how we're using technology and innovation to enhance the client experience.
Robotics has added a different angle completely as far as the process efficiency is concerned, is because of its availability, affordability, accuracy, and auditability. Online banking for business account setup process was manual and also time consuming. The goal for automating this process in TPS was to provide same day onboarding without any errors, and also to enhance the client onboarding experience.
So Robotics is really going to lead the way for change within business banking. because our clients are going to be able to get their services faster. They'll actually be able to use them faster and focus on running their business.
Robotics mimics exact steps what the resources perform, and they are precise, available 24 hours, and most important of all, it's cost efficient.
We're no longer restricted to Monday to Friday, 8-hour work days. That's mind-boggling, and it changes the way that we work.
Robotics really allows.
Okay, I think I got cut short here, just give you guys a flavor. So that's one example of what we are doing from AI side. So if we are talking about all those kind of things, it's really beyond just analytics. It has automation as well. It is a very important part. Where we use robotics actually lots of time is when there's a need to automate. However, it will take much more investment or much longer time to truly digitalize the process. So that's where the robotics come in. And we're very conscious what robotics can do, and sometimes when it's needed, and we will be very actively, decommission bots as needed. Okay, so far I have shared with you all of, give you a glimpse of applications in the banking industry. However, while we're talking about all the excitements, those value generating does not come easy. There are challenges we truly need to face and to take care before those data can be generated to value. So now, what are some of the challenges we see that we need to address before we can unleash the power of AI? I view 3 major challenges. Number 1 is from data. That is our ingredients, right? So without high quality data, there is nothing we can do. So what we want is central data repository, and which is easily accessible, and make sure that with high quality as well. Number 2 is about talents. So what we need, while all of those industry, all of those areas are fighting for the talents of data scientists, how do we make sure that our institution is able to attract and is able to retain the talents we need? And number 3, we touched a little bit earlier, transparency and fairness. How do we make people comfortable with AI, trust the result of AI? How do we make the regulatory comfortable with this and allow us to use this to make our whole process much more effective and efficient? So very quickly to address those, the first one, when it comes to data, what we did is that we created a data governance organization, and the mission is to create a high quality and secure data set and make sure the data is used based on what is the original purpose when it's collected. So that will ensure the customer needs are satisfied. So we have created a center of excellence in the center. We have the advisory and facilitation. And the goal is to make sure, number 1, we're going to have a system record, central repository, where data is easily available. I'm sure many of you have been through the pain where when you try to do an analysis, data is scattered, and you try to figure out what's in it. So our process eventually want to make sure it's all together. It has good lineage. We know where's data coming from, where it's going, and make sure there's good quality control. Bad data we should decline, put into the database, and there's a good tools for the customer to navigate. Here I'm talking about internal customer analytical team to navigate the system, knowing that what to use. On the talent side, what we do is that we look into internal training, and we actually have a AIBMO forward and data smart to make sure that we can provide the right training to our internal team. That way, and we can make sure that when we are growing, that we can satisfy the talent's potential gap. It is not easy, as many of you know, that the market is really hot. So we want to make sure that we provide an exciting project for our team, providing the innovation opportunity for them to grow with us. This one is about trustworthy AI. So trustworthy AI is gaining quite a lot of momentum nowadays. Some of you may have heard some of the recent challenge, especially before with Apple Card. right? Where when they find out that actually the female cardholder tends to have a lower card limit compared with the male ones. Of course, that's unintentional, right? But when you are using analytics, how do you ensure your outcome is fair, is what you desired? And another classic example you may have will be that when people are actually with Target, when they are targeting customer with their information, and they send out some of the, how to say, some of the mail actually to a minor, targeting mail, and which raise lots of controversial information. So we are actually in the process to make sure that when we are doing those, we provide the full transparency and make sure that we have the process to the right governance to ensure people knows when they can use AI, what methodology can be used where, and what are the checkpoints they need to look into before they can do this. So that actually become a extremely important, I would say, for the banking industry. Many areas when we try to use new methodology, actually we have how to say, we have lots of concern in terms of where you can do. That's why in the earlier, when I share with you like the facial recognition, we only used for our confirmed criminal instead of doing it on the customer side. The concern is about, will you guys be able to make a fair decision and use the data wisely? So those three areas, in my view, the challenging area we're facing, and how to handle it will be quite critical for us to, in a way, unleash the power of AI. So those are the material I provide. I do want to have time to make sure I can answer questions we have.
Yep, thank you. It was very educational. It covers a wide range of the fields of AI application. I think there was a question during the time when you were talking about the security camera. There was a question asking, what do you do to detect and remove unfair bias in the model? But I guess it also applies to other
right.
fields as well.
So where's that page? That's a very good question. So that actually comes to all the trustworthy AI side. When it comes to how do we do that, in this current case, what we do is that we actually bring in the, what is that? We actually bring in a human factor here, right? If you can see the last page, what we have is that we actually share with our, how to say, global investigation team for them to validate the results. What generally you will do, you can find that in the financial industry, when it comes to heavily regulated area, you would have, you would want to make sure that you have a human layer sometimes to double check or validate the model. But when it comes to marketing side, then you probably will have more leeway. So that goes to earlier what I talked about on the needs navigator, right? If it's online needs navigator, I'm sharing with a product. There I have a feedback loop. If the customer does not like what I share, which is fine, right? We can improve, come back with better. But when it comes to credit risk decision, that's where you have to be extremely careful. And when it comes to criminal investigation as well, you do not want to mistake a regular customer as a financial crime, a criminal, and discontinue the product. And that's going to have a huge customer impact. So it depends on the field. That's my question. Yeah. That's my answer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, I personally have a question on the COVID prediction. Let me ask my first. COVID prediction, in that you showed a couple of slides of the credit card payment overdue prediction time, and it would look very spiky. I wonder why was that?
Oh, for that one, what we have is that's seasonality. So this one, let me go back to there. The credit card, this is credit card payment. So typically when it comes to payment, there's a cycle, right? So at the beginning of month or end of month, so you can see every spike you have is for every single month. So that's what happened. And interestingly, actually, in this analysis, what we find out is that credit card payment, you see all those kind of things. If you look at in the commercial side, when it comes to the company, their money movement. So this is a credit card payment. If you look at a banking deposit or their savings account money movement, actually we did not see much impact. So it looks like a business, even though the consumer side, the spending and payment is going down, but from the business side, the money movement to running the business is still there, which is understandable, right? You still need to pay your, you still need to pay, exactly. You still need to pay your landlord, you still need to pay your workers to keep it going in that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. There was also a follow-up question to the previous removing unfair bias. What would be the potential bias in this particular application of facial recognition to help identify the fraud?
Right. The bias, I want to make sure I understand the question. Are we talking about, that's this one. Are we talking about how do we remove the bias of the machine learning model? If there's one.
I think so.
Got it. I mean, in our training process, facial recognition is an interesting area. Lots of time, when you come to the modeling, you are limited by the data you use, right? And I know there are some of the challenges. I still remember that time when I was doing one project in South Africa. And the idea is that how do we do facial recognition, compare that with your ID card to ensure the person come to apply is the same person who's on the ID. So that will reduce the fraud significantly. That was the concept. But we find that the facial recognition software at that time actually does not do a very good job, especially when it comes to Africa, America. And one of the reasons is because the database, when they are doing use out there, they use quite a lot of white people when they are developing the algorithm. And that actually cause an issue when you apply the algorithm to a different race. So similarly, when we are doing this, what we do first is we want to make sure the database we use to train the data is as unbiased as possible. So include all of the age, gender, as I mentioned, wearing hat or not, sunglasses or not, look front or look sideways, right? You cover all of the scenario and you test it with your case. And eventually, when a situation is very sensitive, then we do a test and review with our business partner, right? When they review it, if the result is good enough, we believe it's passing threshold, then we let it go. And our algorithm actually also provide a confidence level, right? So from there, we can eventually train our model to identify what level of threshold will be good. And come again, no matter what kind of algorithm you use, no matter how good you are, you will always have bias and error. So all you can do is reduce that as much as possible. And you want to make sure there's a good escalation path. When that happens, you have a way to mitigate that. Then you are okay. And potentially get that feedback loop to help train your model again for the next time to get better.
I see. That makes sense. If there are more questions, I guess feel free to unmute yourself and ask verbally at this moment.
So Dr. Zhang, hey, this is Sammy. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It's really good presentation. As I mentioned to you beginning, some of us came as volunteer and also came from pharmaceutical industry, slightly different industry, but we're also working in advanced analytics. I'm actually curious about the data structure because you talk about automation and seems a lot of data are archived in the certain type of data structure. Is that in clouds or how secure it is? I'm just very interested to know in the AI perspective for the banking industry, how do you guys do about the data optimization and also data storing and data standardization, etc. Is that also very important here in your part of work?
Yeah, it is absolutely important. I mean, that's the number one challenge I list is data. Without ingredients, nothing you can do. And especially, I talk somewhere in the middle that how many breaches we've had and what kind of negative impact it has to the bank's reputation. So it is very important in a way. we treat it well. So what we do is that, especially when it comes to sensitive data, lots of time, not only we're going to store in a very secure environment, and we make sure that we encrypt it, especially for the very sensitive customer PII. And for you to get access to that data, that will require special approval for people to get that. And when it comes to data storage, of course, we make sure that only those people get approval will get access to the data. Now, we have something also interesting going on is that I'm sure with many of the industry out there, we also are in the journey of going to the cloud, right? So now in that new journey, that's in a way become a new learning process for us. Especially on the banking industry, people are very careful in terms of what we can put in the cloud. How do we ensure it's still secure, right? The cloud environment is no longer managed by the bank. Different banks are trying different things, but I generally have very high confidence in the cloud, because if you're thinking about so many other companies are also testing out how secure the environment is. So individual company actually can benefit from the learning of the other companies, but there the PII become even more sensitive to cloud, especially with recent some of the breach we have like Cap1. But if you look into those breaches, you will find out actually it's not environment, lots of error, right? So that in a way is a top consideration, is that number one, security, make sure the right people get access about unstructured data. How do we translate the unstructured data in a way that people can easily tap and get intelligence? And as a central team, one more thing the team is trying to do is bring in an intelligence layer into the, on top of the raw data, right? You have so many learnings from different projects. How do you make sure that learning is easily available to all of the people? So create that intelligence layer, share those learning, become the derived information, make it available to the entire enterprise, is going to be important to achieve what you mentioned, the challenge to address those.
Yeah, totally agree. I think basically Dashu is one of the platform to sharing, even externally across the industry. And based on what you just told me, it's very similar thinking with the cloud. So for us, we have patient data. It's a huge patient patient data is to, for the security, whether go to clouds or not. There's a lot of debating, also discussing in our industry too. So really appreciate sharing different thoughts, and we can even borrow each other's idea. It's all advanced analytic to me, big data. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, due to the sense of time, maybe we can wrap up here. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you Dr. Renjang for the wonderful, wonderful talk. And we will come back next month, maybe for the next seminar. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Dr. Zhang, so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sushi.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Good weekend.